I'm 79 years old. My name is Dorothy, and I need to tell you about the prison I lived in for most of my life. It wasn't made of bars or walls. It was made of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of what people would think. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of being rejected. I let fear make every decision for me. And now I'm 79, looking back at a life I never really lived, and the regret is crushing. The first time I said no, I was 18 years old. It was 1964. I'd just graduated high school. My best friend Sandra wanted us to move to New York City together. We'd get jobs, get an apartment, experience life in the big city. I was terrified. What if we couldn't find work? What if we couldn't afford it? What if something bad happened? What if I failed? I can't, I told Sandra. It's too risky, too scary. Sandra went without me. She moved to New York. She had adventures. She met interesting people. She lived. I stayed home, got a safe job as a secretary at a local insurance company, lived with my parents, played it safe. That was the first time I let fear win. It wouldn't be the last. The man I didn't marry. When I was 23, I met James. He was kind. He was funny. He made me feel alive. He asked me out. We dated for 2 years. He wanted to marry me. But James was a musician. He played jazz piano. He dreamed of making it big. He wanted to move to Chicago, to play in the clubs there. I was terrified. Musicians don't make money. I thought, it's not stable. It's not safe. What if he never makes it? What if we end up poor? What if I have to struggle? I can't. I told James, I need security. I need stability. James moved to Chicago without me. He did make it. Not famous, but successful enough. He played in clubs for 40 years. He had a good life. I stayed safe. I kept my secretary job. I dated other men. Safe men. Boring men. Men I never really loved. I married one of them when I was 29. Richard. He was an accountant. Stable, secure, safe. The marriage lasted 6 years. We had nothing in common. No passion. No connection. Just safety. We divorced when I was 35. No children. No real memories. Just 6 years of playing it safe. The job I didn't take. At 40, my company offered me a promotion. Manager position. More responsibility. More money. More opportunities. But it meant I'd have to give presentations, lead meetings, make decisions, be visible. I was terrified. What if I mess up? What if people don't respect me? What if I fail? What if everyone sees that I'm not good enough? I can't, I told my boss. I'm happy where I am. They gave the job to someone else, someone younger, someone braver. I stayed a secretary for another 20 years. 60 years old and still typing other people's letters. Still making other people's coffee. Still invisible. Safe, but invisible. The trip I didn't take. At 55, my sister Martha invited me to go to Europe with her. 3 weeks, France, Italy, Spain. I'd always wanted to see Europe. Always dreamed about it. But I was terrified. What if I get sick? What if something happens? What if I don't speak the language? What if I get lost? What if the plane crashes? I can't, I told Martha. It's too far, too risky. Martha went with her daughter instead. They had a wonderful time. They still talk about it. I stayed home, watched TV, went to work, played it safe. The pattern, I couldn't break. Looking back, I can see the pattern so clearly now. Every opportunity, every chance, every possibility. Fear said no. And I listened. Someone would invite me somewhere. Fear said, what if you don't fit in? What if you say something stupid? What if they don't really want you there? I'd say no. Someone would suggest I try something new. Fear said, what if you're bad at it? What if people laugh? What if you fail? I'd say no. Someone would offer me a chance to grow, to change, to live. Fear said, what if it doesn't work out? What if you're not good enough? What if you regret it? I'd say no. No, no, no. For 60 years, my answer was always no. What I didn't do. I never traveled. I have passport I got when I was 50. I never used it. Not once. I never learned to dance. I always wanted to. I was too afraid of looking foolish. I never went back to school. I wanted to get a degree. I was afraid I was too old, too stupid. I never started my own business. I had ideas. I was afraid they'd fail. I never learned to swim. At 79, I still can't swim. Because at 8 years old, I was afraid of the water, and I never got over it. I never had children. I wanted them. But I was afraid. Afraid of the responsibility. Afraid I'd be a bad mother. Afraid of everything that could go wrong. I never really fell in love again after James. I was too afraid of being hurt. I never made close friends. I was afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of being rejected. I never did anything brave. Anything bold. Anything that required courage. I played it safe for 79 years. And now, looking back, I realize playing it safe is the most dangerous thing you can do. Because while I was busy avoiding failure, I was also avoiding life. The wake-up call: 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 74. The doctor said I needed surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. I was terrified. Of course I was. But for the first time in my life, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't say no. I couldn't play it safe. I had to face my fear or die, so I did it. The surgery, the chemo, the radiation, all of it, and I survived. Sitting in that hospital bed, bald from chemotherapy, sick and weak and scared, I had a realization. I'd spent 74 years being afraid of things that never happened. I was afraid the plane would crash. It never did. I just never got on the plane. I was afraid I'd fail. I never did. Because I never tried. I was afraid people would judge me. They probably did, but mostly they just forgot about me. Because I never did anything worth remembering. I survived cancer. But I realized I hadn't really been living before the cancer. I'd just been existing, hiding, playing it safe. What 79 feels like. I'm 79 now, 5 years cancer-free. I'm alive. But I haven't really lived. I live alone in a small apartment. I have no close friends, no family nearby. My sister Martha died 2 years ago. I never married again after my divorce. I never had children. I have no grandchildren. I spent my whole life trying to avoid pain, trying to stay safe, trying to not fail. And you know what? I still experienced pain. Life hurts whether you take risks or not. The divorce hurt. Losing my parents hurt. Watching my sister die hurt. Having cancer hurt. But at least those pains came with something. Lessons, connections, growth. The pain I feel now. The pain of regret. The pain of knowing I wasted my life being afraid. That's the worst pain of all. Because it came with nothing. No lessons, no growth, no memories, just emptiness. The things I wish I'd done. I wish I'd moved to New York with Sandra when I was 18. Even if it was hard. Even if we struggled. Even if we failed. At least we would have tried. At least we would have lived. I wish I'd married James. Even if it was risky. Even if we'd been poor. At least I would have been with someone I loved. At least I would have had passion. I wish I'd taken that promotion. Even if I'd messed up sometimes. Even if I'd failed. At least I would have tried. At least I would have grown. I wish I'd gone to Europe with Martha. I'll never get that chance again. Martha's gone, and I'm too old now. Too frail. I wish I'd said yes. To anything. To everything. Just once. I wish I'd been brave instead of safe. What fear really cost me. People think fear protects you. They think playing it safe keeps you from getting hurt. But fear didn't protect me. It imprisoned me. I never got hurt by failure. But I got hurt by never trying. I never got rejected. But I never got accepted either. Because I never put myself out there. I never experienced heartbreak from a relationship ending. But I never experienced the joy of real love. I never felt the pain of failing at something, but I never felt the pride of succeeding at something either. Fear didn't save me from pain. It just made sure the pain I did experience came with nothing. No growth, no lessons, no memories, just regret. The pattern I see in others: I look at younger people now, and I see it everywhere. Young women saying no to opportunities because they're afraid they're not ready, not good enough, not qualified enough. People staying in jobs they hate because they're afraid to take a risk. People staying in relationships that make them miserable because they're afraid of being alone. People not pursuing their dreams because they're afraid of what others will think. And I want to shake them. I want to scream. Don't do what I did. Don't let fear run your life. Because I did that. For 79 years. And now all I have is regret. What I learned too late. Here's what I finally understand at 79. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Every good thing in life requires courage. Love requires courage. Growth requires courage. Adventure requires courage. Connection requires courage. If you let fear make your decisions, you don't actually stay safe. You just stay stuck. And the things you're afraid of? Most of them never happen anyway. I was afraid the plane would crash. I never got on a plane. The plane never crashed. I was afraid I'd fail. I never tried, so I never succeeded. I was afraid people would judge me. They probably didn't even notice me, because I never did anything worth noticing. The things I was afraid of were mostly in my head, but the life I missed was real. My message to you, if you're reading this and you're young or even middle-aged, please listen to me. Don't let fear run your life like I did. That thing you're afraid to try? Try it. The worst that happens is you fail. And failing is so much better than never trying. That person you're afraid to talk to them. The worst that happens is they say no. And rejection is so much better than always wondering, what if? That opportunity you're afraid to take? Take it. The worst that happens is it doesn't work out. And that's so much better than playing it safe and staying stuck. Because I'm 79 years old, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the pain of regret is worse than any pain that comes from trying and failing. The courage I found too late. After my cancer diagnosis, I tried to change. I really did. At 75, I finally took a trip. Just a short one, to the beach, 3 hours away. It was nice, but it wasn't Europe. It wasn't the adventure I could have had with Martha. I took a dance class. One class. My knees hurt too much to continue. I joined a book club, made a few acquaintances, but not real friends. It's hard to make real friends when you're 75 and you've spent your whole life keeping people at arm's length. I tried, but most of the things I wanted to do, I'm too old for now. Too frail. Too late. The window closed while I was busy being afraid. What I see in the mirror, when I look in the mirror now, I see a 79-year-old woman who's been alive for 79 years, but only really lived for maybe 5. I see someone who spent her whole life hiding, playing it safe, saying no. I see someone who let fear make every decision and ended up with nothing but regrets. I'm not saying my life was terrible. It wasn't. I had moments of happiness, moments of peace, but I never had adventure. I never had passion. I never had courage. And now, at 79, I don't have time to get them. My final warning, I'm 79 years old. I probably have a few years left, maybe 5, maybe 10, if I'm lucky. And I'll spend those years alone, in a small apartment, with nothing but regrets about the life I could have had if I'd just been brave. Don't do what I did. Don't let fear make your decisions. Don't play it so safe that you never actually live. Because I promise you, the regret of not trying is so much worse than the pain of trying and failing. I'm Dorothy. I'm 79 years old, and I let fear control my entire life. Don't make my mistake. Be brave. Take risks. Say yes. Live your life before it's too late. Because I'm out of time. But you're not. Not yet.